there is a window of time that neuroscientists call the most important period in all of human development. It is not the teenage years. It is not the school years. It is the first 1,000 days of your child's life, from the moment they are born until the day they turn 3 years old. 1,000 days. And what happens inside your child's brain during that window does not just shape who they become as a child. It shapes who they become as an adult, how they handle stress, how they form relationships, how they learn, how they love, and how they see themselves in the world. But most parents have no idea this window even exists. And by the time they find out, they wonder if it is already too late. So before anything else, let me tell you this. If your child is still inside that window, you have time. And if they're past it, the brain is more resilient than any research has ever given it credit for. But what you're about to learn will change how you see every single ordinary moment you spend with your child. Here's what is happening inside your newborn's brain on the very first day of their life. At birth, your baby's brain weighs approximately 350 grams. By their third birthday, it will weigh close to 1,000 grams, nearly triple in size in just 3 years. But the weight is not the remarkable part. The remarkable part is what is driving that growth. Every single experience your baby has, every sound they hear, every face they see, every time you hold them, every time you respond to their cry, every moment of connection between you is building something inside their brain that cannot be built any other way. These experiences are creating neural connections. Synapses firing between brain cells, forming pathways, building architecture. And in the first 1,000 days, your baby's brain is forming approximately 1 million new neural connections every single second. Not per day, not per hour, every second. The human brain will never again operate at this speed for the rest of a person's life. This is the window. And every moment inside it matters more than you were ever told. Now here is something that surprises almost every parent when they first hear it. The experiences that build your child's brain are not the expensive ones. They are not the educational toys. They are not the flashcard programs or the baby Mozart recordings. The experiences that build your child's brain are the ordinary ones. The ones you are already having without realizing how powerful they are. When your baby cries and you pick them up, a neural pathway forms. When you look into their eyes during feeding, a neural pathway forms. When you talk to them while changing their diaper, even though they cannot understand a single word, neural pathways are forming. When you smile and they smile back, when you make a sound and they respond, when you point at something and they follow your gaze, every single one of these interactions is literally constructing the architecture of your child's developing brain. Scientists call this serve and return interaction. Your baby serves, you return. And that back and forth repeated thousands of times across the first 1,000 days is the most powerful brain-building activity that exists on this planet. But here is the part of this story that is harder to hear. Because the first 1,000 days do not only build the brain through positive experiences, they also shape it through the absence of them. When a baby cries and nobody comes, a different kind of pathway forms. When a baby reaches for connection and finds nothing there, the brain begins to adapt to that reality. When stress is present but comfort is not, the developing brain does something remarkable in its effort to survive. To build its stress response system on a hair trigger. Always ready, always scanning, always preparing for the threat that experience has taught it to expect. Scientists call this toxic stress. And what research shows is that toxic stress in the first 1,000 days does not just affect a child's mood or behavior. It physically changes the architecture of the developing brain. The amygdala, the brain's threat detector, grows more reactive. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for thinking and self-regulation, develops more slowly. The hippocampus, the center of memory and learning, can actually shrink under prolonged stress exposure. These are not small or temporary changes. These are structural differences that show up in brain scans, and they explain why children who experience significant stress in their earliest years often struggle with focus, with emotional regulation, with relationships, with learning, in ways that look like behavior problems but are actually the entirely logical outcome of what their brain was built to expect from the world. This is not about blame. This is about biology. And here is why understanding this biology is the most empowering thing a parent can do. Because once you understand that your child's brain is being built by ordinary, everyday interactions, you stop feeling like you need to do extraordinary things to be a good parent. And once you understand that stress without support is what derails development, you understand that your presence, your calm, your responsiveness is not just emotionally meaningful. It is neurologically protective. You are not just comforting your baby when you respond to their cries. You are regulating their cortisol levels. You are signaling to their developing stress response system that the world is safe enough to relax in. You are literally building the neural infrastructure that will allow them to handle difficulty, form healthy relationships, and regulate their own emotions for the rest of their life. That is what responsiveness does inside a baby's brain in the first 1,000 days. Not cuddles, not comfort, brain architecture. There are 3 specific systems that get built during this window more than any other time. The first is the attachment system. Attachment your child forms with their primary caregiver in the first 1,000 days becomes the template through which they will experience every significant relationship for the rest of their life. Secure attachment, built through consistent, responsive caregiving, produces a brain that believes relationships are safe, that asking for help works, that other people can be trusted. This belief does not live in conscious thought. It lives in the neural pathways built during the first 1,000 days. It shows up decades later in how your child handles conflict in their marriage, how they parent their own children, whether they seek support when they're struggling or suffer alone. The second system is the language system. By the time a child reaches their 3rd birthday, a child in a language-rich environment will have heard approximately 30 million more words than a child in a language-poor environment. This gap in early language exposure produces measurable differences in brain development, vocabulary, reading ability, and academic performance that persist throughout schooling. Every word you speak to your baby, every song you sing, every book you read aloud, every conversation you narrate as you move through your day is directly building the neural infrastructure of language in a brain that is primed to absorb it faster than it ever will be again. The third system is the stress regulation system. This is perhaps the most consequential of all. How your child's brain learns to handle stress in the first 1,000 days determines their baseline level of anxiety, their capacity for emotional regulation, their resilience in the face of difficulty, and their physical health across their entire lifetime. Chronic childhood stress has been linked not just to mental health challenges but to physical health outcomes including cardiovascular disease, immune function, and inflammatory processes that show up decades after the original stress was experienced. The body keeps a record of what the brain lived through in those first 1,000 days. So what does all of this mean for you right now, today, in the ordinary moments of your life with your child? It means that when you are sitting on the kitchen floor playing with blocks and it feels like nothing is happening, something is happening. It means that when you are reading the same board book for the 15th time this week and you feel like you could recite it in your sleep, your child's brain is building pathways that will support their reading and language for years. It means that when your baby wakes at 2 in the morning and you drag yourself out of bed and you hold them and you breathe slowly and you bring your calm into that dark room, you are not just getting through the night. You are teaching your child's nervous system that after the storm there's always someone safe on the other side. You are building the biological foundation of resilience. You are doing the most important work that will ever be done for this child. And you are doing it in the most ordinary moments imaginable. The first 1,000 days are not a pressure. They are a privilege. And now that you know what is happening inside your child's brain during every single one of them, you will never see an ordinary moment the same way again.